Welcome back to TMZ Live. There is a groundbreaking trial going on in Florida. I am obsessed with this. It is game changing. There is a guy by the name of Miguel Albizu who owns a venue in Florida, and there was a wedding at this venue. And at a point, it was closing time, according to Miguel, but the wedding party didn't want to leave. And an altercation ensued. This is video from this wedding where the altercation happened. You see Miguel there waving a gun at some of the people in the wedding party after things got really heated. The gun was not fired. However, he has been charged with 9 counts of assault with a deadly weapon. If convicted, he could end up in prison for the rest of his life. Now, here's what's game changing. His lawyer is trying to get into evidence, and a judge it looks like the judge is allowing it in, at least preliminarily, a virtual reality animation from Miguel's perspective to show the judge that Miguel had a right to stand his ground and do what he did. This is something that has never been done in court. So we're bringing in Kenneth Padowitz, who is his lawyer. Kenneth, welcome to TMZ Live.
Thank you for having me.
So I'm so fascinated by this. I saw this a couple of days ago, and I'm so thrilled we're able to have you on. Explain why the video doesn't cut it for you, why you need this virtual reality version.
Well, like everyone else, when I saw the video of my client with that gun, I was like, holy smokes, this does not look good. And my client got judged nationally very harshly for this video. I realized as a trial lawyer, once I learned the whole story, that his wife had been beaten, that his son had been beaten, that the party planner, an older woman who had a chair thrown at her by the DJ, they were all attacked. My client was then woken up minutes later and told his wife to call 911, got his gun, and wanted to make sure his employees weren't going to be hurt or killed, that his place wasn't going to be demolished. He went in there to try to calm things down and tell them all to leave. So I knew I had to balance that video and show a jury or the judge exactly what happened before he had to resort to survival and to protecting himself and standing his ground by pulling out that gun. So I decided to do an animation, and then part of that animation, I asked that it be shown in virtual reality so that the judge and or a jury could see through my client's own eyes exactly how he was surrounded and faced with this life-altering decision where he had to protect himself and pull that gun out.
So right now, the case is before a judge. You haven't had the trial yet. The judge is going to determine whether your client had a right to stand his ground, a right to wave the gun, and if the judge agrees with you, the case is over. So walk us through this virtual reality animation. We'll show it right now. Walk us through what you're trying to show.
So this is one perspective that's basically from up in the air that shows my client walking in after he was stopped at the door. He's surrounded by a group of intoxicated wedding guests who then begin to coalesce around him and surround him. And he's still not pulling out the gun. He's just telling everyone to go home, go home. He's putting up his hand. He's saying, leave, you have to leave. And then he's grabbed and the gun has to come out. My client is older. He's smaller than the man that is in front of him. He's surrounded by a whole bunch of different people. And he walked into that place with a cane. He has to have surgery on one of his arms. And when he's grabbed, that's the last straw. He thought his life was in jeopardy. And he thought that he needed to protect himself by pulling that gun out. He never fired it. He never said he was going to kill anyone or shoot anyone. He just kept repeating over and over, get out, get out, get out.
You know what Rashomon is? This is a famous Japanese director, where you look at something from different vantage points and people see it differently. So what's going to happen here? You have your VR version. Is the prosecutor going to have his or her alternate VR version, and the judge is going to have to decide what's real?
Well, you know, I find this all the time. I've lectured all over the United States, specifically in Florida, and as an adjunct law professor for 17 years. I use demonstrative aids all the time. Lawyers always think that whatever comes out of their mouth is God's gift, and a jury should be listening, you know, day in, day out, hour in, hour out. But in reality, in our time, where video or movies, the camera angle changes every few seconds. You need other ways to communicate the facts to the jury. And I'm sure many times in trials, I use giant blowups and photographs and maps, and the prosecutor does not. Does that put them at a disadvantage? Every lawyer has to decide how they're going to present the evidence in the case to the fact finder, to the jury. And animation, I did the first one in 1992, was groundbreaking then. And I decided to take it one step further. This is the animation from 1992 in the State versus Kenneth Pierce. And in that case, a little 6-year-old girl was killed. And this was groundbreaking, where it became one of the first cases in the United States to uphold the use of animation. We've now taken it one step further. In our time right now, we have the ability to show the jury the defense based upon evidence. This is not just manufactured. This is an expert's opinion that recreated this crime scene and testified before Judge Siegel here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, that this, in fact, is what happened. My client found himself in this situation.
I'm wondering why now? What is it about VR that allows you to do this now? Is there some sort of technological advancement, or did you just sort of think it worked really well for this case?
Well, I've been looking at using virtual reality now for the last few years, and this case specifically presents itself as a major reason why I needed to do it right now. There's a video on one side of this seesaw, and it was very damning. And my client had this horrible video that someone showed where my client has a gun out, and they're still even coming towards him. You can actually watch the video. He's demanding they get out, and instead of leaving, these intoxicated partygoers are now going towards my client. And so the virtual reality, this one right here is through my client's eyes, what we're watching right here. This is actually what the judge looked at in those virtual reality headsets, and what a jury would look at to show what my client saw. He was heading towards the DJ to tell him to turn the music off. You have to go home. And these people begin to surround him. He begins to retreat. He's backing up. He's not pulling out the gun. He's still demanding that they leave his home. They leave his building. They are now trespassers, and they're not leaving.
This is amazing. You almost make me want to practice law again. This is so interesting.
Well, I think it's important to be creative.
Kenneth, that is really, really fascinating. Thank you so much for the time.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.